The key turned in the front door like it always did. Smooth, no resistance. The air smelled like ocean salt and jasmine candles. Footsteps. 2 sets. Laughing. She said, "Shoo. They'll hear us." Like it was some kind of joke. He laughed louder. But the house was supposed to be empty. That's what she told him. That's what she told me, too. I stood in the dark hallway just beyond the kitchen, barefoot, heart rattling in my ribs like a dropped glass. I hadn't moved in 10 minutes. I didn't need to. I knew this house like I knew the mole behind her knee. Invisible unless you were close enough to matter. She never liked the beach. That was the punchline. She said the sand got everywhere, said the waves gave her anxiety. But when I bought this place last spring, suddenly she loved the water. Wanted to escape more. Said she needed space. Needed weekends. Needed quiet. Said she'd go alone. But now she was here, giggling in the entryway, carrying grocery bags like it was her home, like it was their home. I couldn't see them. Not yet. I could hear him, though. His voice was deeper than mine. His footsteps heavier. He said, "This is nice. You sure it's okay?" She said, "He's out of town. He never checks." That part wasn't true, because I was already inside. With his wife. She sat on the edge of the staircase, hands clenched into fists, mascara dry on her cheek. We didn't say a word. She looked at me like she wanted to speak, and then she didn't. Just nodded once, like this had happened before, like this moment had been waiting for us. And I swear to God, the sickest part was, I didn't feel angry. I felt ready. The floor creaked under my heel, and for a second I thought the whole illusion would shatter right there. That they'd come downstairs, lights on, lies exposed, all of it. But they didn't. They were too busy pretending to be innocent upstairs, too wrapped in the illusion that no one else in the world existed but them. The other woman, his wife, motioned for me to sit. She didn't look at me. Her eyes were locked on the ceiling as if she could see through it, as if she was counting every laugh, every whisper, every betrayal. The house was too quiet between their sounds. Every pause from upstairs was a blade waiting to fall. Every muffled giggle was another twist. I whispered, "How long have you known?" She breathed out, slow, almost trembling. 3 months. You? Tonight, I said. That was the first truth between us. We didn't plan what came next. There was no agreement, no whispered revenge plot, no dramatic vow. We just sat in the dark like ghosts who hadn't realized they were dead yet. She poured herself a drink. Wine, the cheap kind my wife always mocked, and handed me the bottle after a pause. No glasses, just silent understanding. Outside, the waves crashed against the sand, their rhythm mocking the chaos inside. I'd always loved that sound before. Peaceful, steady, predictable. But that night, it sounded like laughter. Cruel, unstoppable laughter. At some point, she stood up and walked toward the window. "They're not even careful," she said softly. "He used to get nervous if his phone buzzed near me. Now he leaves it unlocked in the kitchen. It's like they want to be caught." I looked up at her, backlit by the moonlight pouring through the window. She didn't look furious. She looked exhausted, like someone who had been waiting for this exact night. "You think they'll come downstairs?" I asked. "Eventually," she said. "They always do. Hungry, or curious, or guilty enough to check the door." I almost laughed. The absurdity of it all. 2 strangers sitting in silence, listening to the people who destroyed them, waiting like spectators in a play they never auditioned for. Then she turned to me and whispered, "If you could do anything right now, what would you do?" I didn't answer right away. The truth was complicated. I didn't want to scream, or fight, or break things. I just wanted her to feel what I'd felt. That slow realization that everything you built was hollow inside. That maybe the person you'd been sleeping next to all these years had already left long before tonight. I'd let them find out, I finally said. The worst way possible. She didn't move for a long time. Then she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and showed me a message thread, pictures, locations, timestamps. She'd been documenting everything. Every trip, every lie, every night they worked late. I looked at her in disbelief. "You already knew all of this," I said. She nodded. "I just never had the courage to show anyone." I felt something shift in the air then, a fragile, electric moment that felt almost wrong to breathe through. We weren't allies. Not yet. But we shared the same wound, and that was enough to keep us there, side by side, as the night deepened. Upstairs, I heard the bedroom door open. Footsteps again. Hers first. Then his. Slow. Careless. Confident. The woman beside me looked at me and whispered, "Don't make a sound." So I didn't. I just waited. And for the first time that night, I wasn't afraid of what would happen next. I was curious. Because when you've already lost everything, curiosity is the only thing that still feels alive. The moment the footsteps hit the stairs, every muscle in my body turned into stone. They were coming down. I could hear her laugh. Light, airy, the same laugh she used when she wanted people to think everything was fine. It used to make me melt. Now it made my teeth clench. The man behind her said something I couldn't make out, and she shushed him in that playful tone that once meant behave, someone might hear. Only this time, I was the someone. The woman beside me, his wife, stood up without a word. Her face had gone completely still, almost eerie. We didn't need to speak. We both understood that whatever was about to happen would leave a scar on everyone in that house. They reached the bottom of the stairs, still wrapped up in their little fantasy. She was holding his arm, wearing one of my shirts, the faded blue one she used to sleep in after bad days. He was carrying a half-empty wine glass, barefoot, completely comfortable. I wondered if he even knew whose house this was. Then she saw me. The sound she made wasn't a scream. It was smaller, sharper, like a gasp she didn't finish. The glass slipped from his hand, shattering against the floor, red wine bleeding into the wood like a wound. Nobody moved. The silence that followed was the kind that bends the air. "Micah, she started, but I cut her off without raising my voice. "Don't. Please. Don't insult me with whatever you were about to say." My voice didn't sound like mine. It was calm, almost gentle, and that scared her more than if I'd yelled. The other woman stepped forward then, and for the first time, he looked truly afraid. "Ava," he said, his face draining of color. She didn't answer him. She just stared, eyes locked on the floor, like she was studying the cracks in the wood instead of the cracks in her marriage. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the ocean outside, beating rhythmically against the shore like a clock counting down. Then, unexpectedly, Savannah's voice broke the silence. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "You said you were going to Asheville." "I changed my mind," I replied. "Figured I'd surprise you." Her lip trembled. "This isn't what it looks like." Ava actually laughed, one dry, broken laugh. "Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like." I remember that second so vividly, the way their faces shifted from guilt to defensiveness, from fear to anger. That's the thing about people like them. Once the truth corners them, they try to rewrite it. He stepped closer, his jaw tightening. "All right, we messed up. You want to scream? Go ahead. But standing here like ghosts isn't going to fix anything." I tilted my head, studying him the way a surgeon studies a tumor before cutting it out. "You really think you're the victim here?" Savannah reached for his arm, like she could shield him from the weight of her own choices. That single motion, the way her hand landed on him, gentle and familiar, felt like someone had poured ice water through my veins. "Get out," I said finally, my voice steady. "Both of you." He opened his mouth, probably to argue, but Ava spoke first. "No," she said, and her voice carried a steel I hadn't heard before. "We're not leaving." She turned to me. "Let them watch." Savannah blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" Ava pulled her phone from her pocket, tapped the screen, and turned it around. The video was already playing. Their faces, their voices, every line neatly recorded. "I've been documenting everything," she said, her tone almost detached. "Every weekend trip, every message. Every time you said you were somewhere else." The color drained from both of them. Chase stammered something, reaching out like he could stop the truth midair, but it was too late. I didn't know what I felt. Not triumph, not relief, not even anger anymore. Just an eerie stillness. Like the storm had passed, and all that was left was wreckage. Ava handed me the phone. "You wanted the truth," she said quietly. "Now you have it." Outside, thunder rolled far out at sea. Low, slow, patient. The kind of storm that didn't rush to make landfall. Savannah took a step forward, tears in her eyes. "Micah, please. Can we talk?" I shook my head, finally standing. "No," I said softly. "You already said everything you needed to, just not to me." And then, somewhere behind us, there was a knock at the door. It was 11:47 p.m. Nobody was supposed to be coming. Nobody knew we were here. The knock came again, this time louder. 3 measured taps, deliberate and slow, like someone was testing how long it would take to shatter what little control we had left inside that house. No one moved. Chase glanced toward the door like a cornered animal. Savannah took a step back and brushed her hair behind her ear, a nervous tic I knew too well. Ava just stood there, arms crossed, her eyes locked on me. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't confused. She was waiting, like she already knew what was behind that door. I walked past all of them, my bare feet silent against the hardwood floor. The hallway felt longer than usual. My heart pounded in my throat, not from fear, from something deeper. Dread mixed with the bitter aftertaste of clarity. That kind of dread where you realize you're no longer shocked by betrayal, just numb to it. When I reached the door, I didn't open it right away. I looked through the peephole. Empty. No one. Just the front porch bathed in blue light from the motion sensor above. The night was still, the moon hung heavy over the ocean, and yet the air felt wrong. Like the quiet wasn't peaceful, it was a threat. A silence before something snapped. Another knock. But this time, it came from the side door. I turned slowly. Savannah gasped. Chase muttered, "What the hell is going on?" Then Ava spoke. Calm. Cold. Precise. "They're here," she said. I looked at her, confused. Who? She met my eyes. His friends. And suddenly I understood. Not all of it. Not yet, but enough to feel the walls of that beach house pressing inward, inch by inch. They don't just cheat, she added. They use people. Lie to them. Borrow things they never return. Houses. Cars. Money. Stories. You were never the first stop, Micah. You were the fallback. Just the one dumb enough to sign the deed. My hands curled into fists. More footsteps now. Around the back. Someone knocked on the sliding doors near the deck. Not tapping, pounding. Not playful, impatient. Savannah, Chase hissed. You told me no one else would be here. I didn't invite anyone, she shot back, panic rising. I swear. But Ava had tilted her head, staring at Savannah like she was something beneath glass. You didn't invite them, she said slowly. But you owed them, didn't you? I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. It was Ava's voice that silenced the room again. Another knock. This time, on the window near the kitchen. Then a voice. Low. Male. Smiling. Hey, open up. I don't remember deciding to move. I just turned, crossed the kitchen, and opened the silverware drawer. I didn't pull out anything dramatic. Just the biggest knife we owned. A heavy, balanced chef's blade I bought last year when I still believed date nights and home-cooked meals could save a marriage. Chase saw it and backed away like I'd lost my mind. Whoa, man, relax. I am relaxed, I said. Savannah whispered, Micah, please. But it was too late for pleading. The door handle twisted. Locked. Then the side door. Twist. Then again. Twist. Rattle. Twist. A thud. Then another. Micah, Ava said, her voice suddenly urgent. They're not here to talk. That's when the glass shattered. One of the back windows, completely caved in. A man's arm reached through the broken frame and fumbled for the lock. I lunged forward, slammed it shut from the inside, slicing his forearm in the process. He howled and jerked back, but I didn't flinch. Savannah screamed. Chase ran to the hallway, fumbling with his phone. I'm calling the cops. But Ava's voice cut through again. Good luck. No service out here after dark. Towers down since the storm last week. I checked mine. Dead. Of course it was. Then I looked at Ava. She hadn't moved, but her eyes were sharp. Controlled. She'd planned this. Maybe not all of it, but more than she let on. You knew they'd come, I said quietly. She didn't deny it. Instead, she asked, do you trust me? I didn't. But I nodded. Because in that moment, I trusted her more than I trusted anyone else in that house. And that was enough. The sound of breaking glass didn't stop. Another window, the one above the kitchen sink, exploded inward, sending shards across the marble countertop like tiny silver teeth. The crashing was followed by another voice. Loud, slurred, almost amused. Come on, Savannah. Don't be shy. Let us in. Savannah's knees buckled. She leaned against the wall, pale and shaking, mascara streaking down her face. Chase was pacing now, muttering under his breath, trying to open his phone like maybe the signal would magically return if he stood at a different angle. Ava hadn't moved from the center of the room, arms folded across her chest, head slightly tilted as if she were measuring the time it would take for everything to fall apart. I still had the knife in my hand, but I felt like I was holding a stick of gum. Useless. Symbolic. These people outside, whoever they were, weren't just drunk idiots crashing a beach weekend. They came for something. Or someone. And they weren't leaving empty-handed. "We have to hide," Savannah whispered. "There's a crawl space under the stairs. They'll find you." Ava cut in without looking at her. "That's the first place they'll check." Chase exploded, voice cracking with panic. "Why the hell are they here? I thought you said they were just your yoga friends." Savannah shook her head, stammering. "They are. I mean, they were. I don't know why This wasn't supposed to happen." Ava finally turned to her. "You told one of them about the house, didn't you?" "I didn't invite them." "You didn't have to," Ava said flatly. "You just opened your mouth. That's what you do." Another crash. Wood this time. The back gate. Someone was trying to rip it off its hinges. I turned to Ava. "You said you knew this was coming. Why?" She looked me dead in the eyes. "Because I went through this already. A year ago. Different house. Different city. Same group. Chase doesn't pick women. He picks resources." Savannah gasped, offended. "You think I'm a resource?" Ava ignored her. "When he found out you had a place by the coast, he made a move. Told the others. They're not a gang, Micah. They're worse. They're parasites." I blinked. "So what? This was all planned. A setup?" Ava's voice dropped. "It always is." That's when I remembered the box. A month after I bought the beach house, I'd installed a metal lockbox beneath the floorboards in the utility closet. I had no real reason. It was just one of those paranoid things men like me do when they don't trust the world. I kept a few things inside. A backup phone, an envelope of cash, a flash drive full of old documents, and the spare key to a storage unit 2 towns over. I hadn't touched it in almost a year. Until now. I bolted from the room without a word, Savannah calling after me, Chase asking where I was going, but I didn't answer. I pulled the closet door open, dropped to my knees, peeled back the thin wooden panel, and reached down. The metal was cold. Smooth. Untouched. I twisted the dial to the old combination, July 19th, 28. Our wedding date. The lid clicked. Inside, everything was still there. The phone was fully charged. I left it plugged in just in case. I flicked it on, and, thank God, 2 bars of signal. Enough for a call. I dialed 911. The screen blinked. Connected. And then, a voice. 911. What's your emergency? I froze. Because the voice on the other end? It wasn't a dispatcher. It was a recording. Looped. Pre-recorded. A fake. My blood ran cold. Someone had hacked the backup phone. I looked down at the screen. It didn't say 911. It said calling, Ava. And before I could even react, a shadow fell over me. Ava stood in the doorway, calm as ever. "You weren't supposed to use that yet," she said softly. My grip tightened on the phone. "What is this?" I whispered. She didn't blink. Plan B. Behind her, I could still hear Savannah's sobbing and Chase's frantic voice echoing through the house. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Because the woman I thought was the only sane person in the room, the only one who had my back, had just used my own lockbox against me. And now, I didn't know who to be afraid of more. The people outside, or the one already inside. Ava didn't move. She just stood there in the dim light of the hallway, arms loose by her sides, face unreadable. Too calm for a night like this. Too composed for someone who just watched men try to break into a house. My hand was still wrapped around the backup phone, but suddenly it felt like I was holding a loaded trap instead of a lifeline. I couldn't hear Savannah or Chase anymore. Just the ocean outside. And Ava's slow, quiet breathing. I forced the words out of my throat. "Why did the phone call you?" She tilted her head. "Because I reprogrammed it. A month ago." "How did you even know it was in there?" She stepped closer, still not threatening, but each footstep made the room colder. "Micah, you think your wife's the only one who knows how to poke around in a closet while you're gone?" She gave a half smile. Not cruel, not playful. Something worse. Knowing. "I found the lockbox weeks ago, the second night I was here. I saw the phone, the files. I didn't touch them. Not yet. But I memorized everything. Just in case." I backed away slowly, bumping into the dryer. "Why?" She took another step forward. "Because I knew this night would come. I didn't know when, or how, or with who. But it always does. And I needed to be sure the one person in this mess who still had something to lose wouldn't mess up the ending." I didn't say anything. Because I suddenly realized, this wasn't her first beach house. It wasn't her first betrayal. And it wasn't her first setup. Ava had been through this before. Not just with Chase. With others, maybe. And not as the victim, not entirely. She crouched down and gestured toward the open lockbox. You kept copies of the deed, right? And the security footage backup drive? You're that kind of guy? My mouth was dry. What do you want? She reached in and picked up the flash drive, slipping it into her jacket. Insurance. Against what? She looked up. Against everyone else in this house. And then the front door slammed open. Not broken, not forced. Unlocked. Savannah's voice screamed my name. Micah. I bolted down the hallway, knife still clenched in my hand. The living room was chaos. Savannah was on the floor, one arm shielding her head. Chase was backed against the wall, holding a lamp like a weapon. Two men were inside now. One of them had a long crowbar hanging loose in his grip, casual, like it was just an accessory. The other was holding a duffel bag and scanning the room like he was checking a grocery list. Where is it? The taller one barked. You said there'd be gear here. Savannah was crying, shaking her head. I don't know what you're talking about, please. You said there'd be cash. Drives. Something worth the risk. The man's eyes scanned the room and landed on me. You Micah? I didn't answer. Just stepped forward. He raised the crowbar, but Ava stepped in from behind me before I could say anything. I have it, she said. It's done. The man stared at her, then smiled. You always deliver, Ava. Savannah's sobs stopped. Wait, what? Chase whispered. What the hell is going on? I was done playing dumb. She set you up? I said. All of you. Ava shrugged. You think I came here for closure? She turned to Chase. You ruined my life 2 years ago. Took everything I had. But you didn't even remember me. You just moved on. To her. And I waited. I watched. And when I saw you were stupid enough to mix her into your garbage again, I made sure you wouldn't get out of it this time. You used me, Savannah whispered. You pretended to. Ava turned. You used me. You used Micah. You used this house, this life, everything. I just made sure the scales balanced. The man with the crowbar looked bored now. You done? Ava reached into her coat, pulled out the flash drive and the envelope of cash from the lockbox, and handed them over. Everything you were promised. I even wiped the security footage. He didn't back it up online. She glanced at me. Right. I said nothing. Because she was wrong. 2 weeks ago, after a minor break-in on the neighbor's property, I paid for a cloud backup system. Hidden. Encrypted. Timed uploads every 72 hours. I hadn't told Savannah. Or Ava. But now, I had them all on video. The break-in. The faces. Ava's confession. And that meant one thing. This wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't flinch. Not when Ava handed over the drive. Not when the men gave each other a nod and started back toward the door like it was any other deal, any other night. The taller one tucked the envelope into his jacket and muttered something under his breath. He wasn't here for drama. Just the package. Transaction complete. But in my mind, the real transfer had just begun. Because while they were walking out with what they thought was leverage, I stood there holding the one thing they didn't know existed. The camera backup app on my second phone. Still uploading. Still archiving. Every minute. Every voice. Every face. They stepped outside without another word. The screen door slammed shut behind them. It sounded like punctuation. Like the final period of a story I hadn't written. Savannah was still on the floor, silent now, curled into herself. Her mascara was smeared halfway to her neck. Chase had slumped onto the edge of the couch, both hands gripping his face like he was trying to erase his entire expression. Ava stood in the middle of the room like she was waiting for applause that never came. I finally spoke. You really thought I wouldn't keep a backup? Her head turned, slowly. I held up the phone. Cloud-based. Hidden folder. Your confessions already backed up in 5 locations. And scheduled to send to the police if I don't log in by morning. For the first time all night, Ava looked surprised. Not scared. Not quite. But the confidence cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but I saw it. Her eyes flicked toward the door, like maybe she could still run, still twist things in her favor. But I was done playing the passive husband. Done being the quiet one in the corner while everyone else wrote the rules. I stepped forward. Savannah, I said without looking at her. You have 60 seconds to leave this house. She blinked. What? I won't press charges. Not against you. But you're going to walk out that door with nothing. No car. No suitcase. Not even the shoes you came in. If you speak, the deal's off. Her lips parted like she was about to beg, and then she saw my face. Whatever she saw there made her get up slowly, grab her phone from the table, and walk out barefoot into the night. I turned to Chase. You? He stood immediately. I'm leaving. Don't worry. You won't see me again. That's not what I was going to say. I tossed a small piece of paper on the table in front of him. That's the address of the storage unit where I've kept every conversation Savannah ever had on this Wi-Fi. Yours included. Do something stupid, and that drive goes straight to your investors. And the IRS. He didn't ask how I got it. He didn't speak at all. He just stared at the paper, then at me, and slowly backed out the door like it was still his choice. Ava didn't move. You want to threaten me too? She asked. I shook my head. No. I want to ask you a question. She raised an eyebrow. Why didn't you take the drive for yourself? You gave it to them. You could have held on to it. Sold it later. Made them crawl. She exhaled. Because I knew you had something else. You trusted me? I gambled. On what? That you were tired of being underestimated. She walked toward the window, looking out into the blackness. We don't get people like you often. The ones who watch everything, but say nothing. The ones who let others think they're harmless, until it's too late. The words should have flattered me, but they didn't. Because even now, I didn't know what side she was on. She turned around. So? What happens now? I paused. I make it look like you saved the night. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because when the police get here, I want them focused on them. I nodded toward the door. Not you. You'd cover for me? No, I said. I'm protecting my leverage. You're more useful as a witness than a suspect. She gave a soft, almost sad smile. You're colder than I thought. No, just awake now. We stood in silence. Then she asked, what about the house? I looked around at the broken windows, the scattered glass, the blood on the edge of the window frame. My beach house. The one I bought for peace. For love. For a future that no longer existed. I answered without hesitation. I'm selling it. To who? I looked her in the eye. Whoever's not afraid of ghosts. She didn't smile. Not really. But something in her shoulders relaxed. Want help cleaning up? She asked. No. I said, turning off the lights one by one. Let it look like hell. And with that, I walked outside into the salty night, alone. But not empty. Because for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't the fool in the story. I was the one holding the pen. The sunrise didn't ask permission. It just arrived, bold, orange, unapologetically bright, pouring through the broken glass like the night hadn't happened at all. The beach outside was still. Waves folded onto the shore like pages turning in a book I'd stopped reading. I stood alone in the living room, barefoot, holding a mug of coffee I didn't even remember making. The furniture was scratched, the floor littered with wine stains and glass. But the silence? It was finally mine. No lies whispering through walls. No phones buzzing with half-truths. Just quiet. The kind that feels earned. Ava had left just before dawn. No drama. No goodbye. Just a folded note on the table, next to the fireplace. I hadn't opened it yet. I wasn't sure I needed to. She'd played her part. I'd played mine. We weren't friends. We weren't enemies. We were survivors of the same storm, walking in different directions now that the rain had stopped. I spent the morning cleaning up. Not everything. Just enough to feel like I was reclaiming the space. I left the shattered window as it was. A reminder. By noon, I was on the phone with a realtor. Told them I was listing the place. No emotional backstory. No messy details. Just a clean transaction. Waterfront, needs repairs, price to move. They asked if I was sure. I said I'd never been more certain of anything in my life. Later that day, I drove into town. Had lunch at a tiny diner where no one knew my name. Ordered pancakes at 3 p.m. just because I could. And somewhere between the second cup of coffee and the silence in my chest, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want them to suffer. I didn't even want an apology. I just wanted peace. And for the first time since I said, I do, I knew what that felt like. Back at the house, I finally opened Ava's note. Just one line, handwritten. You were never the fool, Micah. You were the reset. Underneath, it was a small flash drive. No label. No explanation. I'd open it someday. Maybe. Or maybe I wouldn't. Because whatever truth it held, it wasn't mine to carry anymore. That night, as I packed my last bag, I took one last look at the place. The porch light flickered the way it always did, something I never got around to fixing. The breeze rolled in off the ocean and rustled the curtains. I left the front door unlocked. Not because I was careless, but because I had nothing left to hide. I wasn't the man who bought this house anymore. And that was a good thing. As I drove away, the house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, then vanished behind a curve in the road. I didn't look back, because for the first time in years, the road ahead looked better than what I was leaving behind.